I gave him an early graduation gift, the old plum I found. Looks like a fishing weight. Put it on a keychain so he always remember where he came from.
Now get out of here. This thing is radioactive.
Whoa.
What? This dad gave a radioactive pendant he found in his scrapyard to his son. Oh, this reminds me of a story that was from Brazil. We've done it. We've actually finished season 2. So here are the season 2 awards. We've got everything from the most shocking moment until the most clutch House decision. So watch till the end for that. For the most shocking moment, it's got to be when House actually gets shot in no reason.
Which one of you is House? I was a patient of yours.
Well, if you want to leave the chocolates downstairs.
Stay away from it. Who'd want to hurt you?
What? The way he was shot in the middle of telling him to leave the chocolates downstairs. I felt that. This might seem like fiction, but patients attack and even kill their doctors more frequently than you might think. In 2019, the British doctor Phillips was attacked with a crossbow after a patient said that he had killed his father. When you're dealing with people's lives, things can get sour very quickly. And that's why we always try to be careful with procedures and managing expectations for them. Medicine is definitely a roller coaster. Now, what are House's chances of surviving this gunshot wound to the head? 2016 study showed that non-military victims had a 42% chance of survival of a penetrating head wound. So it's pretty much 50-50. The funniest moment has to be the father's face in Skin Deep when he realized that he slept with his son.
Your testes never descended because you're immune to testosterone.
This is obviously a joke.
No, a joke would be me calling you a homo.
No, you're wrong. I'm a girl. Look at me. How could you say I'm not a girl?
Put your clothes back on. I'm gonna cut your balls off.
This episode blew me away. Don't worry, my clothes are staying on though. Saddest moment was the mother realizing what she'd done to her baby in Forever.
You tried to suffocate your son.
Yeah, you stopped me.
Your son's organs were damaged too severely. He passed away this morning.
Oh, no.
Even if there were a physical reason or you were in acute psychosis, how could anyone live knowing they ended the life of their own child? There would also be legal implication involved, as this would be classified as infanticide. It is both a crime and a defense in itself, as otherwise it would be murder. Infanticide can apply when a woman, by any willful act or omission, causes the death of a child who's aged under 12 months. At the time of the act or omission, the balance of the mind has to be disturbed by reason of her not having fully recovered from the effect of giving birth to the child. That means that the charge is reduced to manslaughter rather than murder, which means killing someone by accident rather than on purpose. The sentence for that could be life imprisonment, but in reality with cases like this, the mother just gets a non-custodial sentence. That means they're subject to complying with a particular treatment plan or hospital order. Best diagnosis, hands down, androgen insensitivity syndrome from Skin Deep. That's one of my favorite in the whole series.
Got yourself the perfect man. A woman.
What are we looking for?
That.
But those are...
Yep. He has cancer on his left testicle.
No way! Holy... Oh my... Goodbye, vinegar. This has to be my best diagnostic guess so far. Wow, I am taking that. Androgen insensitivity syndrome is exceptionally rare. Only around 2 in 100,000 males are born with it. It's caused by a mutation in the coding sequences of testosterone receptors. It doesn't affect females because it's X-linked recessive, and females have an extra copy of the X chromosome. They can take away her twitching, cataplexy, and memory disturbance by taking out the tumor on her testicle, but there's no way of fixing the underlying condition. She wouldn't be able to have children either. What an insane diagnosis. This has to be one of my favorite episodes in the series. Least accurate moment, it's got to be failure to communicate when the writer understood Foreman's instructions but had aphasia causing word salad.
I want you to write your name, draw a face.
It's called agraphia. Loss of ability to write.
This actor has some serious facial expression skills, but the writer hasn't backed him up. It's a subtle detail, but when Foreman asked the patient to write his name and draw a face, he looked at him as if to say, "Really? That's so easy." Yet the patient has no idea at this point what they're saying. But with receptive aphasia, you not only lose the ability to speak, read or write, but also to understand language. So there's no way he'd be able to know what Foreman's instructions were here, with his symptoms being as severe as they are. Still makes for great TV though. So how was this language supercenter of the brain even discovered? Carl Wernicke was a 26-year-old physician in training and noticed that many of his patients were having difficulty with word finding and some were saying completely incomprehensible words. Eventually, one of those patients died, so he examined their brain, as you do, and found that there was a tumor close to the auditory cortex that processes sounds. He concluded that this area has to be a second language processing center, and he was right, so they named it after him. He's doing pretty well because the only thing I've had named after me at 31 is a parking ticket and a cup of Starbucks. Most interesting moment definitely during hunting, where House hit the patient's father with his stick to try and rupture his cyst.
Are you gonna give me some blood?
Look, if he doesn't give a damn, then neither do I.
Either Susan wanted to die, or she was both fat and stupid.
Son of a bitch!
That means I can do this. I just ruptured one of those liver cysts we were chatting about.
Oh, even by House standards, this is mind-blowing. He just put the dad into anaphylactic shock intentionally to be able to get his blood. I suppose at least he had the courtesy of doing it in a hospital with him, unlike he did to his son. This patient's going to need anaphylaxis treatment stat with 0.5 mils of 1 in 1,000 intramuscular adrenaline. That is the anaphylaxis dose. The cardiac arrest dose is actually with a weaker concentration, 0.5 mils of 1 in 10,000 adrenaline. That's because it goes directly into the vein, and so the bioavailability is much higher than when it's being injected into the muscle. Cringiest moment is Chase manipulated into kissing a 9-year-old girl in Autopsy.
I've never kissed a boy. Will you kiss me?
No.
No one will ever know.
What? Not okay, Chase. I know he did it as a friendly thing because she's dying and that was her last opportunity, but I can see the Daily Mail headlines already. Handsome Australian doctor uses authority to groom vulnerable cancer patient. You may think patients hitting on their doctor doesn't happen much, but it's actually fairly common. I was once running a cardiothoracic pre-op clinic and a guy and his wife in their 50s came in to see me. I did some of the initial consultation, checking their investigations, then just went out to get a skin marker to make sure we didn't take out the wrong lung. As soon as I came back to them both in the room, the husband said, "My wife thinks you're dishy." Initially, I thought they had a friend called Dishy, which I had been mistakenly identified as, but the internet clarified it for me. Apparently it means very sexually attractive and desirable, yet troubling for reasons hard to explain. Always a good idea to give a backhanded compliment for someone who's about to take out your lung. Most accurate moment has to be Daddy's Boy radioactive gift.
I gave him an early graduation gift, an old plum I found. Looks like a fishing weight. Put it on a keychain so he always remember where he came from.
Let's get out of here. This thing's radioactive.
Whoa.
What? This dad gave a radioactive pendant he found in his scrapyard to his son. Oh, this reminds me of a story that was from Brazil. Basically, 4 trash collectors went to an abandoned hospital, found an old radiotherapy machine, which they didn't realize that that's what it was, took it to a scrapyard, and then started taking it apart and selling it piece by piece. Now, the owner of the scrapyard thought that this was quite interesting because when he opened the center, there was a piece of metal in it that was glowing in the dark, even though it was just a little powder. So he took it home to his wife and started giving out gifts to his friends because he thought that it was quite interesting. Now, this metal was radioactive cesium, and less than 20 grams of the metal ended up causing about 4 people to die within a month. They had such high exposure of this thing that they got symptoms within a week, and they think the real count of people who died from this exposure simply from this guy finding it in his scrapyard was in the hundreds potentially. So official figures downplayed it. Absolute madness. Most clutch House decision, injecting Foreman with Legionella to save his life. That's just total madness.
But you wonder, I can't monitor your pain. If I can't monitor your pain, I won't know if the Legionella is working.
I'm not consenting to you giving me... What was that?
Oh my god. House is braver than a scooter driver in Vietnam. I've done so many reaction videos now that this doesn't even surprise me. House has infected Foreman with a potentially fatal disease to try and save his life. It doesn't get better than this. Now Foreman will be expected to get breathlessness, dizziness, having a fever within about 48 hours of exposure to Legionella. The thing is though, they can cure him at any time. But you see, practicing medicine in this way is amazing television. Well done, writers. Most memorable moment when Foreman thought he was actually going to die in Euphoria.
I don't want you to be afraid. If I'm not afraid of dying, what the hell should I be afraid of, man?
I've seen so many patients at the end of life. Some are graceful, welcoming death with open arms. But others are terrified, trying to resist it with every milligram of will in their body left, looking for a way back to living their life. Which will you be at the end? It's something I've thought about a lot, and it's what forces me into action. I could sit here and watch the 3rd episode of Netflix, or I could work on myself, educate myself so that I can make my own unique contribution to the world. It's just as Dr. Stephen Covey from The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People says, begin with the end in mind. But this is not the end, as you can watch House getting shot as the season finale again right here. Crazy episode.